Hey, hello everyone. Jose J. Garcia with Garcia Mohom University. Here, my guest for today. He sells super yachts. He is a serial entrepreneur, a coach, and a mentor. Walter Schmid, how are you?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm doing good. And well, sales is a little part only. I do, of course, but the main topic in sales is really the coaching part and support because that's what is needed. What I realize not only in the super yachts, but anywhere that I have been into.
Absolutely. So, Walter, we share a lot of the same social media, networking platforms, that sort of thing. But for people that don't know you, tell us about you.
Well, my thoughts about me, it's the sales is one thing, and the super yacht and the luxury part that came into my life. Well, it's about 18 years ago, about when it started with the yachts, which was just like the passion, like I just stepped into coincidentally, I wasn't searching for it. It just came along, and then either way you fall in love or you hate it. I think there's nothing really in between. And based on the observations, the discussions, several hundreds or even thousands discussions with different people from the yachting industry, from the construction part to the brokers, to the suppliers, everything, I just figured out it is necessary to do some things in terms of negotiation, sales. And that's how it came up also that I wrote the book in terms of super yacht sales, which I didn't know that it was and is still the only book that is really about the sales process, because a lot of people, they think it's so difficult to sell in the yachting industry. It is a different approach, yes, but the basics, they remain the same. As you know as well, communication is a communication, but there are different kind of communications. And that's what is the important part to me.
Yeah, we'll definitely be listing that book. And I didn't notice it on your website. I was looking, browsing your site there, and I noticed the book. So we'll definitely be listing it on this link here. But were you always intrigued by boats? You said this was something that early on you wanted to get into. You just
Actually, the first contact to boats ever was in Switzerland, of course, on the lake when I started sailing. And by that time, I was around 12 years. I don't even really remember when I started with sailing, and I never went into the sailing because I just stopped it, because for me was the motorboats the interesting part, because you have not only more space, but also you don't need wind. And that's the start of getting contacted with the boating. And then I had like a pause in between. And a lot of people don't know that I joined once the police force in Zurich, Switzerland, or was on the lake police as well, which they used to have the biggest boats on the lake of Zurich for a while. And that was also a trigger that started me going into more this topic to getting into yachts. And as well, a guy came up to me and told me, look, you are the one, you have to join me. And I asked him, what do you do? And that's how we started to get into the super yachts also, and also internationally.
do you drive them? Are you also licensed to move these things around in the water?
I do have the license here for the lakes, for the sea. I don't have it yet. I just enjoy a lot to be on the boats whenever somewhere is an opportunity to drive. Perhaps I make the license once a day, or maybe the next 2-3 years, it depends, because I have a dream, which is to work out from a boat, from a catamaran. That's my dream, because it's, well, if you have the opportunity to go step into some things, I think it's important that you do whatever it takes to try to get to that part. And that is what I'm focusing on, to really live on a catamaran for, well, maybe 1 or 2 years, with some side steps on the countryside as again. But that's something I'm heading on.
Interesting. So, Walter, I am in mobile homes manufactured housing, and I was actually visiting the Key West about 3-4 weeks ago, reviewing some mobile home parks and that sort of thing. But I noticed for the first time, they say you always learn something new. I noticed they have mobile homes on water, so they're even more mobile than we already thought. What is your knowledge of mobile homes? Not just these in waters, but mobile homes in general.
Well, mobile homes in Switzerland, as you can imagine, it's not so common. There are, of course, but you don't really live in those ones. A few people, perhaps, that's what it is. But perhaps because of the weather as well, it's not really convenient all the time to be in such a mobile home. And also the construction, it requires some things from the government, so for the laws, which are a little bit slightly different than in the US. But when it comes to the water, yes, absolutely. I think that's something that could be a trend more and more, to move from the country or from the land side to the lake or to the sea side, because there's much more space, once. And secondly, if you can move around, and if you don't like your neighbor or you just want to be somewhere else, it makes it much easier. And also, I made once a calculation with a friend of mine who, by the way, also builds such kind of mobile swimming homes. Mm-hmm. And the calculation just turns out it is cheaper to have a swimming home with all the risk, like the waves and tsunami, whatever, wherever you are.
Interesting. Yeah, no, and the mobile, the beauty of mobile, if you don't like your neighbor, I guess, yeah, definitely go to another community, go somewhere else. So you're very successful at what you do, Walter. If you had to start over, what would you do different this time?
Well, absolutely. What I would do differently is to start right away with a coach, because, I struggled a long time to, first of all, get the coach, then to stick on the coach's advices. This is the hard part, especially if you are a typical Swiss like me. And that's something that I would really focus on. And because I lost so many opportunities and I had so many ideas to do this and that and everything, it's just too much. There was no focus at all. And it's not only one coach, sometimes you need more approaches until either way you get the right one or you get different perspectives. And for different topics as well, I realized I need some different coaches as well. So that's been absolutely number one.
Absolutely. We actually just had a call on Clubhouse last night where we had Frank McKinney come on, and that was the topic, is coaching and mentoring and why you should get one. But what is the biggest mistake you made, and what did you learn from it getting started?
Well, actually, the biggest mistake is to think to do everything by myself. Mm-hmm. This is extremely hard, and you don't get where you want to get. So that was my biggest mistake, to think really, to stick on it, to say, yes, I can do it all by myself. I don't need any help. And that costs a lot of time, years of time.
Same here. That was actually my flaw. Not reaching out. Very kind of closed-minded. I got it. I'll do it. And it's yeah. So I absolutely agree on that one. So what do you think is a major flaw people have in getting started?
Well, the major. That's a good question. What is your guess?
Fear. Number one, fear, maybe.
Fear. Fear is one of the biggest key issues. And what I've heard that, I studied also psychology, and it turns out I tried actually once. I made the trial with different people to talk, no matter who it was. I ended up at the bottom line. It is fear that holds most of the people back to take either way action or make a decision they maybe don't feel comfortable. But the bottom line is fear, whatever fear it is. Once you find out what the fear is, or you have someone who can address that one to get you moved forward, I think that's the moment where you really change.
Absolutely. What would be some words of advice to somebody if they came to you and asking you what should they do to get started?
Well, first thing is to have a conversation, have a paper, a pen, and then writing down what is it that you really want, because you need to have the why. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the why, there is no way. It's almost like you want to go somewhere on the journey and you have no end goal where to go. So with the why, if you start with the why, you want to do some things, which is not related only on making money, because if you're chasing money runs away. That's typical action that happens. But if you have the why and you stick on it and you just start to figure out what or how you can get started, as best together with a coach or get advices to point out the number 1, 2, and 3 steps.
Absolutely. Persistence is huge. It plays a big role. Definitely going after what you want, your visions, your goals. But how much more does it take to become a success? But besides, I mean, because you can educate yourself all day long, and then you have that whole issue of knowing too much, I think. But aside from persistence and education, I mean, what can people do to really get out there?
Well, persistence is a very important topic, and persistence is something that I haven't had before. I needed to learn that. Is number one, and I couldn't do that all by myself. And I believe there are only a very rare people who are able to do it by themselves. Maybe you can count them on one hand, but otherwise it is very hard to stick on some things. And if you have somebody who takes you on your hand and say, look, we're going to go that journey together, and whatever happens, if you fall, well, you fall, but there is somebody who helps you to get up, or even before you fall completely down, that holds you and brings you back up.
And always learn from it. Absolutely. If you do fall, you fail. I mean, as long as you don't keep doing the same thing, same mistake over and over, you learn something. I say you won something in there anyway. What is your definition of success? The actual word success.
That's a huge question, and there is a huge answer. Success is, by my definition, not only related on money. Money, of course, is like a tool, it's like the energy, so-called. But actually, success is if you can say, when you are at the end of your life, that you have left something behind you that made an impact, not on yourself, but on the society. It is about making a difference, which doesn't mean that you have to make a difference on thousands of people if you don't want or you cannot. But if you just realize you make a difference and you make your way you want to make, and do not listen to others only and going their ways, that's in my definition the wording success.
Absolutely. Well said. And yeah, everybody has a different definition. I like to think freedom more than anything, but sure. You mentioned some on this earlier, writing it down, and I'm huge on that. I have pad after pad. I write everything down, a schedule. How important is it to write goals, visions, and have that?
Well, it's a part of the visualization, because if you don't write down, you forget. And I know that by my own experience, when I say something, or I have some things in mind, an idea or a goal, well, I can say, yes, I know my goal. But the fact is, human beings, they forget what they think. So if you write it down, you go back, you just make clear, well, if possible, every single day, you watch what is it that you want to achieve? What is your goal? And based on that, your unconscious mind actually follows that energy, because then you're focused on something that you want to achieve. It's the same like if you watch TV and always, let's call it the war movies. Your unconscious mind picks that up as well. So your behavior starts to adapt what you have seen, because the brain does not make a difference whether it is real or unreal, because reality, what is reality? So that's why I think it's pretty important to write down as much as you can, and those goals that you have them in front of you all the time.
Agree. I stop what I'm doing to write an idea because, like you said, you forget, and 10 minutes later, you're thinking, what was that? And it's those ideas, I think, that come out of nowhere that tend to be some of the best ideas sometimes. So, absolutely. Walter, what is next for you? What's next for Walter?
What next for me is, first of all, the interviews. I'm started to really getting to make much more interviews, to get to know more people, to expand my network. And then based on the network, going deeper into the communication part, because I want to educate as much people as possible, not in terms of like a university, but really the hands-on mentality in the communication, which for me, I always say I don't coach people like typically it happens or it works. I really treat them in a way that the new behavior, the new way of thinking, acting, reacting, that this really goes deep into your soul or into your brain, that it becomes a habit.
Well said. Absolutely. Last question for you. How do I get one of these boats you have? How do I at least ride one?
Well, there are two questions. Which one do you want to have first answered?
Whichever one gets me on a boat first.
Well, actually, the first, if you want to go for a ride, I would recommend charter a yacht.
Okay.
Make a yacht charter because it's not only cheaper than buying one. You don't have also all the headaches that might appear if you buy one. So, but that's the best way. And if you do so, you got to be really careful which broker or actually charter company you choose and where you want to go, because there are so many. And if you want to get the best experience, of course, you need to try to reach out to the best, which are, by the way, not the most expensive. A lot of people mix that up, but that's what I would do. Make a charter, go for a day or some days, make your experience.
Absolutely. Now they have these personal, if you just wanted to be you, just take me to the sea. I want to think, create ideas, goals. They have those, right?
Yes, they have as well. Yeah, they do.
I will be looking into that. Yes, sir. Any final thoughts for those tuning in?
Well, actually, for those who listen and watching that one, just one more time, the part of encouragement, which also is connected directly to the fear. Just keep in mind, whatever happens, do never stop doing what you want to do. Change maybe strategy, don't do the same over and over again, as you have said before already, but never give up and ask for help before the problem occurs. Start doing that before.
Good thought. Absolutely. Walter, how can people connect with you?
Well, you can reach out to me either way on the website businesssalesgrowth.com or superyachtsalesnow.com. And by the way, if you want to have the book, which is a Super Yacht Sales, it's available on Amazon, but I recommend order it on the Super Yacht Sales Now. First of all, it's a little bit less money. Secondly, you get a personal signed one.
Definitely, those tuning in, go check out Walter's page, his site, his beautiful boats. A lot to see on there. And Walter, I will be adding all these links to this video and sharing with you, so people will have access to also click on that and make it easy for them.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Walter, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you as well for inviting me. Have a wonderful stay and stay healthy and become more successful than you already are.
That will do. Yes, sir. Thank you.